Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.
All right. Hey, guys, what's going on? Back here, I'm here with the good-looking Merle here. We were upstairs, and Linda wanted to make sure I made a point to say that you got a haircut. You're looking... I'm going to give you a B+ on your look. A B+ is better than a
B.
That's better than majority of the grades I got in school. Let's see.
I think it's kind of weird that you're talking about giving me grades on my looks.
Not on your look, on your haircut.
I'll give you a B+
on the haircut.
Yeah, I don't need you hitting on me. All right. I thought you were going to say something about me looking a little bit older or something today.
Well, see, the haircut, the back part of the reason to B+ is the haircut really accentuates the gray in your hair. So
I actually talked to my beautician today because I actually got it cut this morning, and I said, I'm actually going to look for a different beautician or hairstylist or barber or something, because every time I come to you, I just get more gray hair. So I think she's doing something to put gray in the scissors that touch my hair or something.
Well, you're looking a little bit older, a little bit wiser today. See, we could put a good spin on it.
Yeah, like happy 2-year anniversary, by the way. Yeah, now that you're done trash talking.
2 years strong, Dad.
2 years.
We've been at this for 2 years now.
2 years, yeah. So, hey, we do want to thank all you guys out there for tuning in to Strong Dads. This is our 2-year anniversary show. Yeah. It is kind of hard to believe. It all started with the whole idea of I had a brain idea of the show. We had already started, Linda and I had already started the Rock Solid radio show.
Yep.
And I kept thinking, I just want to go after the men's side of things. And I'd actually even written a show and just had some things sketched out. And you called me
randomly,
all full of just...
say it. I was
piss
angry.
And vinegar.
Piss and vinegar. There it is.
You were all fired up one day. Merle, I don't know. You remember me? Like, I'm Kyle, and all this. And you're like, I got to talk to you, and so we got together, and you were just talking about just the frustration and everything about what you saw in the workplace as a fireman going into the projects in the ghetto area of Dayton that you work in, and just seeing the dad problem, the man problem. And I was like, well, here's your sign, Merle. So I said, hey, I'm thinking about this show. Yep. Let's go ahead and just kind of record a couple and see how they go. So 2 years later.
2 years later.
Here we is.
Yeah, we started out just on the audio. Now we got the YouTube channel started. We're progressing. We're making progress, right?
Yeah. Learning how to be technicians and production people and everything.
Well, remember, that's what I told you. I said I would love to do a podcast, but if you're looking for a young, technical, savvy guy, I'm not your guy.
Worthless.
I'm not
absolutely
not your guy.
Worthless. I'll call you to fight a fire, but I will not call you to produce a show.
I could probably hit the record button on the camera. I probably could figure that out, I think.
Good stuff. All right, so we do have a good show. A part of our show is going to be talking a little bit about what we have discovered in 2 years.
Yeah.
And not necessarily maybe discovered as much as acknowledged and seen come up to the surface in our conversations with men and our study of men and the work that I do with men and actual coaching on a daily basis. What are some things that we actually see coming? Some good, some not so good, but we're going to just tackle some of those. But then what is the takeaway? And hopefully the takeaway is something that will land well with each of you guys out there.
Right. Well, the cool thing is in the last 2 years, something that I've come to realize is that the majority of the stuff we talk about and the conversation we have, other guys are feeling the same way. That's been something very eye-opening for me. Like a lot of the stuff we talk about, a lot of stuff that I spew on these mics, are things that have always gone through my head, or especially in the last since I've become a dad. These things, these thoughts I have, And it's reassuring to know that there's other people, like just like you, Merle, and like we have similar thoughts and struggles as dads and things that we notice dads are just not doing well, ourselves included. Like we obviously are included in the conversation when it comes to dads failing miserably sometimes, but just the idea, we're in this together trying to get better. So if nothing else, this show has been reassuring to me that other guys are in this fight with me.
Yeah.
That we're trying to get better as dads, and we should strive to encourage each other to want to get better for our kids, for those next generation of hopefully parents growing up, they're going to have their own kids, and hopefully starting a new cycle, a better cycle.
Yeah, one of the things that I think has been a foundation stone for us is the idea of us not spending a ton of time complaining about the state of affairs, and instead taking responsibility and doing. And we decided early on that this was not going to be a show where we would come on here and just complain all day like we do on so much, like you hear on so many other radio shows and stuff. Like, listen, you can complain about the problem all day long about and why it's unfair and what's unjust and prejudice and all these things. Oh, okay, like we kind of already get it.
Yep.
What can you actually do? And more importantly, what can you actually do in the area that you actually have control over? And that is your home.
Yep.
So our work is focused in your home. And from there, it'll trickle out. And so, I want to continue to go down that road of, not that we're not ever going to be bothered by a situation, but we're going to give that less airtime than, well, what can we do about it? What are the solutions?
Yep, good stuff. We're going to continue to get into the show. Before we do, we got some sponsors who have been with us from darn near the beginning. Very earlier on, we had Crimer's Beer House came alongside of us. So a big shout out to Crimer's Beer House. Check them out down on Route 128. Thanks so much for those guys. Go down there, see Mark, let them know Strong Dad sent you down there. Greatly appreciate them for what they continue to financially support our show and help continue to spread this word. So thanks so much for Crimer's Beer House.
Yeah. Also want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for being one of our huge sponsors here for the Strong Dads podcast. So we just want to thank Casey's. Go down there to his outdoor center located right outside of Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and he can fix you up with any kind of landscape, hardscape, excavation, even in terms of creating some of that landscape. So he does amazing work. So check out Casey's Outdoor Solutions. All right, let's see. So let's get into talking about some things that we have learned in 2 years of doing this, just because we've been maybe a little bit more focused than the average guy listening, just because it's part of our work. We like to dig into some of these things. So what are some things that we have found? What's one of the first things that you've come to recognize?
So this is funny that this list that we compiled here, the idea that men are not stupid.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Well,
really?
Some men, myself included, fall in. But the crazy thing is like, I mean, golly, how many sitcoms nowadays just absolutely berate the man and just make them these buffoons and can't even lean over and tie their shoes and not necessarily knocking those sitcoms, but I think they play right into the stereotype of what our society says a man looks like, and if nothing else, these last 2 years have really brought to light the importance of the fact that as a man, as a dad, like our significant value in the home is so much more than what is displayed out on the screen sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think it just the point needs to be driven home that, man, you are valued. You are an important aspect, if not one of the most important aspects in your home, and you should carry that, and you should understand the importance of that. So when you do see the opposite, when you do see these sitcoms, downgrading and basically pushing down the man's role in the house, like, we should understand that's not correct. That's not, that we know that to be 100% true, not true.
Yeah, we're not idiots, and the whole idea of here's where we have to be careful with that. Like, a lot of that is done in humor. So we have to keep a sense of humor. We have to be able
Absolutely.
to laugh at ourselves.
Yes.
But when we start to accept how low the bar has become for men,
Yep.
oh, you're all a bunch of babbling idiots anyway. And when we accept that and just laugh about it and we don't reject it, we actually are hurting ourselves long run because we set the bar lower and lower. Well, what do you expect? I'm just a man.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the things that we have to realize is that no, men are very capable, and we see that all the time. Some of the guys that we have on the show
Yep.
step right up and are doing amazing, great things in leadership positions and their family and so on. So that's one big takeaway over 2 years. Men are not idiots.
And the crazy thing is just like you were saying earlier, that through this show we talk about taking responsibilities. Part of the reason why I think men get displayed sometimes as idiots because sometimes we are idiots, right?
Right.
We have these habits, habitual things of not stepping up when it needs to be. So obviously, especially when it comes to the comedy side of things, obviously you take it a little step further. But I think the idea of men are not idiots. The reason why that gets displayed sometimes is because we didn't do what we were supposed to do as men, and
Right.
so it's easy to poke fun at that. And
some of it we've earned.
absolutely,
For sure.
yeah, for sure.
So a takeaway that I have over 2 years is when we first started this, I kind of thought it was a novel idea. Like there aren't a whole lot of guys talking men to men.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like anything. Once you get into it, you really start to see there are a boatload of men welling up with the same idea here. I always find that interesting when all of a sudden, what causes a swell of ideas that are all centered around a similar topic. And so the more that you recognize this, there are more men's organizations popping up. There are more men's podcasts, more men's group, more sermons being preached to men, for men, more churches being designed with the idea that we're going to attract men in.
Yes.
There is an outgrowth of trying to go back and reach into men. The pendulum is definitely swinging hard and heavy to bringing men back in, and so that's encouraging to me that the day of beating up on men is definitely getting smaller and shorter in time because men are stepping up and women. I mean, I am finding all of the time. Listen, I work with couples every day. Every lady I know that I work with wants a strong man. Yeah. She does not want a pushover. She does not want, she comes in and she wants the best version of him, his strength, his intelligence. Yeah. She wants all of that, and she wants to be cared for. And so now that us men are starting to get that message that our ladies want us to be strong, not arrogant, not jerks, all right? And we'll talk a little bit about how that can go, all right?
Yeah.
But to do things well, oh man, ladies are all over that. So I definitely see a huge uptick in the male message, the men message.
And what about this next thing? The idea that the idea of men sometimes are just insecure and have a lot of self-doubt. Man, I think this is so true. Part of it is what society, again, going back to that first point, what society has kind of told us with a man. But I think part of it is just, I feel like, I know for myself, a lot of times I put a lot of weight on my shoulder on how I feel like I should step up as a man and as a dad. And then, if I don't live up to my own expectation or what I want to see for how I present myself to my girls, like there's a lot of self-doubt that comes from that. And like, am I performing the way that I feel like I should? If nothing else, this show is convicted me because, I can come up on these mics and say one thing and then go home and not do the very thing we talked about. and it's so easy, I think, for all men. I mean, part of the reason why the Christian faith gets a bad rap is because of hypocrisy, right?
Sure.
You seem to say something and then you perform a different way. And I think the absolute the same. I know for sure, this podcast has really brought a light that for me. Like, I can come here and we can talk about, the idea of taking ownership for something, and then I'll go home and I won't take ownership for whatever small little task. And so I think there's this idea with men, man, we have a lot of self-doubt, and a lot of times it's brought on by ourselves, which I think is a good thing in some regards because, men, I think, are finally stepping up and realize we need to set a high standard for ourselves. So if we do fall short, which we are going to because we're sinful men, right? But the hope is even when we do fall short, our standard is still going to be, we have set that high standard. So I think the self-doubt, a lot of it is self-induced.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, man. That whole idea that men hide behind these facades of power, of strength. Like I want to appear like I've got it together. And so that often reflects a total insecurity, right? It's humbleness that allows a person to actually feel and be secure. Like, I don't know it all. I don't get it. I'm confused by this. I make mistakes. And so when we hide behind, I've got it all together.
Hide behind a mask. We did a show on that.
We did the whole mask thing.
Yeah.
And so we find a lot in our work that a good portion of men are very insecure. And so the flashiness of the car, the size of the wallet, the size of the muscles, all of those things, actually in my work, when I just dust it off a little bit, I usually find that there's a pretty significant insecurity there. And again, we all have that, right? We all have it. So like, what am I trying, what am I fearful of? Whether I'm not going to be able to take care of my family, so I want to, protect in ways of making more money than I need, or dominating and having influence. What am I trying to hide from? So lots of insecurity.
And with that, those insecurities, I think feeds right into our next point. That, man, I think if nothing else, the last 2 years have really brought to light that, man, guys are not confrontational.
Right. Not in their home.
Not correct. Yes.
Right.
Correct. Thank you. Yeah. So when I think most men would agree that when you come home, like I know for me, like when I get home from work, I want there just to be peace and tranquility, right? Just I want everything, because I don't want conflict. I don't want there to be turmoil like in my home, which is why I've talked many times on this show, like, man, I refuse to go to bed mad at my wife because I don't want to have an ongoing argument. I don't want to have this ongoing turmoil in my home. I don't want that. And again, with that, like if you are in a situation where there is turmoil, where there is argument, man, I think it is so crucial. This is something that as of recently I'm learning. Man, I think it is so powerful for your kids to see you and your wife disagree, and then confront that, and then go after it and solve those problems in a healthy way. Because if all your kids ever see is negativity when it comes to how you go after conflicts, man, we're missing the mark big time, because conflicts naturally happen, right? There's no way around it, regardless if you're talking with other male friends, with female friends, with your wife, with your kids. There's all coworkers. There's going to be conflict, and it is so powerful for our kids to see how we attack and go after and resolve those conflicts in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I will tell you, a lot of times I think people have the idea that men like to come home and cause problems in the home. That's just not the truth. Men do not, of all places they want to be calm, it's home. They want home to be calm. That doesn't mean they don't do stupid things to bring it on. And that comes from a lack of knowledge and awareness and practice. Yep. But by and large, men do not like to fight in their homes. And so, we're going to deal with that, like why that happens here in a second. How about this? Like the whole idea, I've kind of noticed this as COVID has come into play, and Lord, are we ever going to get done with COVID? I don't know. Okay.
I think the Spanish flu lasts like 2 years. So maybe full 2 years.
So, but men need purpose. They need purpose, and they need purpose in everything they're going to do if they are going to do it well. So think about that for a second. Like, men do not do well with prolonged vacations. All right. I mean, now sitting in a stressful time, you might say, man, I'd love to have a vacation for 6 months.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is most men do not do well when all of a sudden they don't have a purpose. And so it's important that you wrap your head around that so that you are actively building that purpose and protecting
Absolutely.
that purpose. So, I got a week, I got 2 weeks vacation, that's fine. But after that, like, okay, I got to get back on purpose. And COVID and being away from work and having that, or even having subsidized checks coming in, all of those things actually, in long term speaking, actually hurt a man's purpose. And without a purpose, I lose drive, I lose ambition, I lose vision. So I have found men have to have purpose.
Yep. And with that purpose, men I really do feel need direction. They need to be pointed. So if you're someone who, definitely with everything that happened with COVID, like if you've lost your purpose, I would venture to say one of the root reasons why is there's no direction, like which you made a point about a vision. Man, that gives me my purpose. Is I have a vision.
Yeah.
I know where I want to go. That's my direction. And when men lose that, when they lose that idea of where am I going to go, I think it's so easy to lose the purpose, because it's just like, why do I even to wake up tomorrow if I have nothing to go to? I have nothing to strive towards. Because I think naturally men I think it's a God-given gift that I think generally speaking, we're designed to be leaders. And with that leadership, man, you are called to give direction to your family. But sometimes the problem is, if you take the flip side of that, sometimes it's hard because men have lost their direction, and it's so hard to give direction and give purpose and give vision to your family when you've lost that in your own self.
Right. I'll add to that the idea that men are called to be leaders in the things that they do, or they're in charge of.
Yeah.
But if they're not in charge of something, what I notice with men are workers.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So like here's a phrase I hear all the time with men. Just tell me what you need me to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, because like when you come into the home as a man, I am to lead the wellness of our home, the big purpose direction. Okay.
Yep.
Whether it's to be a follower of Jesus, what values we're going to live for and work in. So that's my big picture. But on a daily basis, most of us, mom runs the house. Mom runs calendars. Mom runs day to day. She's good at that detail, making sure that the kids have what they need. And so us dads, we don't get that. We don't have that kind of vision at all. We're just like, we just throw a can of soup in there. That'll be the lunch, And so, but if you need help out of a man, just tell him what you need. Tell him. I mean, in a respectful way, because they want to be respected. Just tell them, because most men are like, just tell me what you need me to do, I'll do it. But if you don't tell me, I don't know what to do.
It's funny. It's funny you say that. So I've mentioned my brother before. He was on our show before. He has always said he's in a pretty high leadership role in the restaurant industry, and he always says people want to be led.
Yeah.
All you have to do is give them that direction. Hey, that whole, if you're a leader in your work, you should be good at delegating to people. The same can be said at our home. Like, man, people want to be led, so lead them. If you are somebody that wants to be led, man, find someone that's going to help lead you and give you direction. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking that step back. I need help in this. Like we talked about, seeking wise counsel. Like if you're seeking to be led by somebody, then go find that person.
Yeah. Another thing that I've come to realize over 2 years is that, by and large, men want to please their wives.
What's the saying? Happy wife, happy life?
That's right. And men, by and large, do not want their wives upset. Now, that doesn't mean it works that way, because lots of bad habits come into play, and we get hurt, over the years of these bad habits. But most men are really desiring to please their wives. If they don't know how to do it and they don't have good direction, then they tend to screw it up more. Okay. But for the most part, like, hey, I just, whatever it takes, I want you to be happy, because we know if she's going to be happy, then the tone of the house is happy. And so, contrary to popular belief, men are not typically trying to come in the house and blow their wife up with anger and frustration.
Yep.
They want to please them. They just don't always know how to do it well. And that's through communication and habits that we need to practice.
Yep. Yeah, that's really good. And I think the other side of that is this idea that sometimes men, I think all men could say, it's nice when your wife says, "Thanks for doing this," or gives you that kind of affirmation, because I think men, again, want to please their wife. They don't want conflict. So part of that is when you get that affirmation from your wife, "Oh, thanks so much for doing this. I'm so glad you did this." And the flip can be said about that. As men, we need to do a better job of appreciating our wives.
Right.
Because if we want that, if men are seeking that approval from their wives and seeking that the teamwork is there, man, we have to reciprocate that. We have to tell our wives, "Thanks so much for doing those small tasks, those what men may see as not very important tasks for the day to day." Again, just throw the chicken noodle and just throw the can of chicken noodle for lunch. Man, we have to recognize that when our wives do those things, and I'll be the first to admit I'm not the greatest at this, right?
Yeah, Jenny told me that.
She had to come tell you because I'm terrible, right? But I think men want to feel appreciated. And with that, we also need to appreciate our wives and what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, so the idea of respect. Men want to be respected.
Absolutely.
Women want to be loved. We've done shows with that from the Love and Respect series from Emerson Eggridge, and that holds very true in the work that I do. Men want to feel respected, and that respect is basically through praise, through pats on the back, through just that just acknowledgement of what we did. Like, we want to feel valued in that way. Yeah. But we also have to know, if you're going to get that from your wife, then you also better love her even when she's not always the most lovable person, when she's not being always the nicest person. So when you get into that game of playing, well, I'm not going to love her until she respects me, now we're in a level of immaturity.
Yeah.
Right? And so by and large, men want to be respected and women do want to be loved.
Yep.
How about this last thing here? I have found, and I'm going to say that this is because we are less and less as a culture faith-based, right? Now, when I say faith-based, I don't mean just going to church.
Right.
We swallowed a lie many years ago that we are to be leaders. We're all to be leaders. And we talked about that. We're designed to be leaders. But there is a problem with our leadership, even at the highest levels in our country.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because you are in a presidential office doesn't necessarily mean that you know fully how to lead. And that will come all the way down to the level at the house. One of the things that I've noticed is that men lack leadership. They lack leadership. And I want to actually explore this as kind of more of our advice part of it. This is a takeaway from 2 years of us working with men. And if we can get this one part right here, right? If we can get this part, everything we've talked about to this point actually starts to take care of itself, starts to heal, starts to mend, okay? So what do I mean by men lack leadership? They lack leadership in the idea that they really don't know what they're leading to. And they don't know how to lead to whatever they don't know what they're leading to. Okay. Yeah. It's a skills thing as well as a direction thing. So if I am wired to be a leader, but I don't know exactly what I'm leading to, all right, then I'm just going to kind of go around in circles and I'm going to assert dominance. Okay. We call that the alpha male. I'm just going to assert dominance. And I'm going to assert dominance by whatever my traits are that are appealing or bigger than other folks. So my muscles, my money, my influence, my power, my mouth, my mind, all of these things. If I can assert a dominance, then that makes me feel like a leader.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in charge. All right. That is absolutely not leadership. And that's where we have come to find in the work that I do, we don't even know what we're leading to. we're leading to ourselves. We're trying to establish that everybody should look at us because we have all the answers. That's not what we're called to lead to.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's kind of the discussion here that we really want to get into about really reflecting back on, like, okay, so if I am the leader, what am I leading people to?
Yeah.
And then what skills do I have to do that, right? Is it my big mouth? Is it my muscle? Is it my whatever it is? But how am I doing that? I listened to a podcast. It was a debate, and you've heard me reference these people. These are some people that I just like to listen to, and I'm not saying I subscribe to everything that they say, but I definitely like to try to spin my head around some of their conversations. Jordan Peterson and William Lane Craig, who are philosophers and psychologists, so they really study the mind and the brain a lot in theology. They were debating a lady by the name of Rebecca Goldstein, and Rebecca is an atheist, and she was basically kind of like saying, like, you know, we don't really need this God thing. You guys create this God thing as if we need it, and she's kind of going back and forth with we can figure it out. Like in terms of how we are to treat each other and how to have a civil society. And Jordan Peterson goes on and just like, he looks like he's half asleep through this debate. He's actually sitting in a chair and he looks like he's just holding his head. And all of a sudden he just says, like, so I had a dream I want to tell you about. And the dream was we were in a graveyard. And in the graveyard, all of a sudden, this king rises from the dead, comes up from the grave. And it's this king in all his glory and power. And kings, it's an ancient king. So those were kings, those were warriors. They were dominants, right? They were strength and power, like you and I try to be, right? Like, and so this king rises up. And then all of a sudden, another king rises up. And he's bigger and stronger than the last one. And so that king kind of looks at him. And then another king rises up. And so all these kings start rising from the dead, and one's bigger and badder than the other.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of looking at each other. And then all of a sudden, Jesus rises. Jesus rises, and when Jesus rises, all of the eyes from the kings go straight to him, and they bow down. And at that point, Peterson says he wakes up.
Dang it.
And then he says, like, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to take away from that, but I've given a lot of thought to it, and here's kind of what I'm thinking. And here's the deal. We all have to have something that we bow to, something that's greater than us, something that we take our lead from. If you're going to be a leader, it's not like you are God. It's not like you have created the ultimate vision for why humanity should exist. And so you have to understand who the ultimate leader is, and then you have to learn to be the follower. Okay, when I say the follower, I have to follow Jesus in order to then lead my family and other people to Jesus and his ways. And the contrary thing that is so crazy about Christ is that he does not stand up out of the grave looking like any of the other guys. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the flashiest guy. He's not carrying a sword. He's not doing any of those things. He's humbled in servanthood and love. And that's what all these kings are now looking at him. And that right there helps me to understand what it is that I need to start gravitating towards.
Yeah.
As a dad, as a husband, I don't need to try to come in the house and pound my fist harder so my family listens more, or try to flash around my money or my influence in that way. I need to be leading my family to the ways of Christ, right? And his ways are weird. Counterculture completely.
Yep.
But his ways are proven. And I think that's what you and I have talked about before. Like, that's what keeps making us gravitate towards this. Like, his ways are proven. It would be one thing to say that you do, hey, you got to be a person of love and you love your enemy, and it never bear it out well. But we see that it bears out well for long-term health of a culture. So anyway, that is the point there. Like, what are you leading to, and who is your leader? Okay.
Yeah, this is, man, this idea of what you were saying, Merle. As believers, we've never once hidden the idea that we are faith-based, and that is why we want to be better dads. That is the sole reason we want to be better men, is because we want to lead and we want to be more like Jesus. And if nothing else, man, the last 2 years and hopefully the next 2 years, and for sure in between years 2 and 3, we're moving on to year 3. Man, let's do that. Let's become servant leaders for our home. Like, man, what would our homes look like if that was your sole vision that you have for your home? Is I want to serve my family because I'm the leader of my house.
Right.
Like, that is so counterculture to, if you're going to be a leader, to come down and serve. But we know as believers, just like you were saying, Merle, man, it works. It 100% works. It has been proven. It has stood the test of time. Like, the reason Jesus is a profound figure, the reason he is the head of our seat, the Big C church, is because he serves. Man, he washed his disciples' feet, something that was set aside for servants to do. He did that, but he did that to show men, to show us as believers, like, this is how you love people. You serve them. Mm-hmm. And what a powerful message that is to take away from our last 2 years, moving on for our next 2 years, like moving on as our kids continue to grow. I have an 8 and a 6-year-old now. And I'll tell you what, like, if there's something that Jenny and I can instill in them, is how to be servant leaders. Mm-hmm. Like, that is huge. That is huge. For me in my job as a fireman, we talk all the time that not that we don't want to be led from our command staff, from the guys who run our department, but how much powerful is the message when it comes from bottom up. That the guys in the firehouse, the guys making all the runs, and again, you can translate this into your own home, but like, man, at work, it would be so awesome for the bottom up mentality that the guys who are actually in there doing the work, not that our command staff is not putting forth effort, 'cause that's not at all true, but like the reason it would be really cool to have a culture, to have a society where the home is setting the standard and setting what goes on in our community. It all starts in the home, and I think that would go a long way, like, in fixing society and fixing this man problem that we have. If men would just learn, man, servant leadership is where it starts.
Right. When we talk about all the insecurities and needing direction and purpose and all these things that we have come to realize more and more over our past 2 years of working with men, we all see that start to be a non-problem when we start to function like Jesus, follow Jesus, lead toward Jesus, okay? So in John 8:12, just a great verse here as a reminder, again, Jesus spoke to them saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. What is the light of life? The light of life is the direction, right? It's showing your way forward. You will know where to walk. You will know how to walk when you basically say, hey, Jesus is what I'm going to be following, all right? And so, man, we can go through like a bazillion different verses where Jesus says, come on, follow me.
Yeah.
Just listen to me. Hang in there with me. Seek my way. He reminds us constantly of that because he's trying to get us to realize that all these other ways of asserting and putting our influence out there are of us, not of him.
Yep. Kind of one last thing, one last little point I wanted to make, Merle. One of the verses you wrote down here was John 10:27, is my sheep hear my voice and I know them and they follow me. A long time ago, I was listening to a speaker and he made a profound statement that if him as a dad and his kids were in a room, say 500 people in this room, and all these people are loud and talking, and he called out his daughter's names, they would know their dad's voice. And I think it is so true. If you are in tune, if you are active part of your kid's life, if you are continually speaking to them, man, they're going to know your voice. And the flip of that is we should know what Jesus' voice sounds like.
Oh man, that's
and I'm convicted. I'm convicted in this because I fall short in this daily. Like, I'm not in the Word like I know Christ wants me to be. But golly, man, if there's no better example than what the Father in heaven wants for us, he wants us to know his voice, just like we want our kids to know what our voice sounds like. So if nothing else, man, just a challenge for myself, for you guys out there, man, let's teach our kids what our voice sounds like. Like, not just the audible sound, but what is our voice portraying to our kids? And then the other side of that is what does Jesus' voice sound to you? Like, you should know audibly what his voice sounds like. And I think if we can move forward with that, man, we're gonna be successful in that.
That's a great challenge right there. I mean, so as we walk away from this show, the idea of challenging us men to be more in tune, to hear what God's word is saying. And the only way to do that is to, as you said, purposefully tune in. And so whether that is through more reading, Bible study, getting back into a church, listening to some strong sermons, start listening to his words. I've said many times on this show, and I'm actually in the middle of doing this again. Every now and then I go through the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I just read the red. Those are the words of God, of Christ. And the reason why I do that is because I constantly want to go, wow, that is just not me. You know, that is like, I'm not hitting that. I want to practice more to that. So the challenge this week is get in tune with what your leader is saying to you so that you can lead your family and others to that word.
Awesome, good stuff, man. We really appreciate you guys. These last 2 years have been a blast. I've had a little fun
poking fun at me. Yeah,
sit next to you on the mic. I hope you guys have enjoyed tuning in every week to what we're talking about. I hope you guys are getting something out of it. Man, share the heck out of this show. We want as many guys to hear this message. Suggestions are always welcome. We would love to know what you guys are going through, struggles. Merle and Linda would love to come alongside you guys with coaching, help here at Rock Solid Families. Man, reach out. Don't do this thing alone that we call life, man. If you're struggling in your marriage, you're struggling with parenting, with yourself, your challenges, struggles you have going on, man, reach out, seek that wise counsel that we talk about all the time on this show. Crimer's Beer House, KC Outdoor Solutions, thanks so much. We definitely greatly appreciate you guys for what you're doing, for the way that you guys continue to come alongside of us. So really appreciate everything we got going on. Go out there and be some strong dads. Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads Podcast would love to thank the Crimer's Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Crimer's Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Crimer's Beer House.